If you're like me and you like bikes that look like old motorcycles, then this thing looks awesome. I saw a few videos of this pop up online, and my first impression was basically like, yeah, I want one of those. Now that I've got it in person and up close, there's probably some things I would change. I'm gonna reserve judgment on some of the stuff until I've actually taken it outside and ridden it some more. There are some component specifications I've found that I would definitely change, but number one thing to find out is how much power does this put down to the ground. Now, out of the box, this thing did not do anywhere near what it was advertised to do. I reached out to Walfisk. Turns out there is a connector inside this box here with the motor controller. There is a jumper that is not plugged in for some reason, and if you connect that, you get way more power out of the bike. So I already put this on the dyno once and ran it up, and I was only getting like 500 some watts out of the rear wheel. They basically have three advertising marketing claims about this bike. One is that the rear motor is 1500 watts. We will see in just a moment. Two is that it goes 40 miles an hour. I guess I'm gonna have to see once we get that out on the road. I'm not sure if it's actually gonna do it. I think that's gonna be close. And three, they say that it's a 100-mile bike. I think on the website it might have said 48 volt, 60 amp hour battery. Engraved on the top of the case here, it says 48 volt, 58 amp hour. Not a huge difference, but that's what it says here. I can tell you right off the bat that yes, this thing's gonna go 100 miles easily with a battery that big. That's not gonna be a problem. So I love the way the bike looks. My concerns or questions are, is it gonna perform as advertised? And is the quality going to be good on, front suspension, rear suspension, tires, all that good stuff? So let's find out. I'm gonna take a guess. I haven't ridden it with the power turned up, mind you. I'm gonna take a guess and say that the torque ends up somewhere down here in the mid 20-some foot-pound range, but then the wattage is probably, hopefully at 1500 watts, could be way up here. And the reason for the big difference compared to most of the bikes I've tested is because this is using a direct drive rear hub motor. Most of these bikes on the board that are using a hub motor have a motor that has planetary gears inside. There's a gear reduction, and you get a lot more torque out of that. The disadvantage is every time you add gears, you lose some efficiency, but you can get the motor into a smaller, lighter weight package. So it just makes sense. These direct drive hub motors like this do make sense when you start getting up to, I think, 1500, 2000, 3000 watt power ranges and above, because you can get more efficiency. The downsides, they're gonna be a little heavier. They're not gonna have as much torque. All right, so key on the battery down there. We have a little NFC card for the screen up here. There we go. I don't know what the Bluetooth is doing. Now, some of you are probably gonna notice this. I am aware of it. I haven't fixed it yet. The rear tire is a little off, so it's a little out of round. I'm sure we can fix that if I deflate it, reinflate it. Just know that it's gonna go up and down a little bit. I'm aware of that. I'll fix that later. So 3, 2, 1, and go. 500, 700, 800, 900. Past 1,000 watts, 1,300, 14. Oh, we might have got 1,500 watts there. I will have to see if there's a way to change the speed because it's way off. We're off by 9 miles an hour. This says 50, and that says 40, almost 41. I think there's a cruise control or something stuck on. I thought this was gonna turn the battery off, but it didn't. It seemed like it still wanted to go. It's reading like 50 miles an hour when we're basically doing 40 miles an hour, which tells me that at max RPM, this can get up to maybe 41. So could this bike get up to 40 miles an hour under load? Not likely. So I'm not sure if we're gonna hit 40 miles an hour on the street, but probably mid upper 30s, I think it should do. But let's see what the wattage and torque numbers are for the dyno, see how accurate my guess was. I thought I saw it peak at 1.5 for a split second there, but it must not have been long enough to even register. 1,486 watts, which for a 1,500 watt motor, I'm gonna say that's pretty good. That's right at advertised, actually. That's better than I thought it was gonna be. And the torque was actually way better than I thought it was gonna be. I'm gonna check the chart and make sure there's not like a weird thing going on there, actually, because the run looks clean, so it really did do 35 foot-pounds of torque. That was actually a lot better than I was expecting. This does make me more excited to ride it because it's gonna go faster than I originally thought from the first little quick ride when that cable wasn't plugged in. And torque-wise, it feels a lot better too. I think it's gonna climb the hills a lot better than I expected. So 35.67 foot-pounds and 1,486 watts. So one of the most surprising bikes was the Walkie H6 Max. That one had 35.85 foot-pounds of torque, more or less the same as this guy, and about 1,350 watts of power. That one also had a huge, like 60 amp hour battery capacity or something like that. So very comparable bikes, other than that one looked like a weird folding 20-inch fat tire bike. This one looks like a cool motorcycle. So all else being equal, this is the one I would pick. But this one also had just over 100 watts more on power. That makes it very comparable to the Yadea Trooper. The wattage is a hair more, the torque is a hair less. All right, I've got it out on the road and I look at it, it looks amazing, right? Like, hopefully some of you agree, it looks great. And not only that, but it's practical. Now, yes, I'm talking about some of the good things. I'll get to the bad in a moment. So, number one, they put the battery down here. Keeps the weight low. It's actually pretty cool looking, the way it has some extra stuff built in that just, I don't know, it doesn't just look like an ugly battery. It looks nice in there. It doesn't look like an engine, but looks electric, okay? And then the tank, because they didn't use that for a battery. This is maybe my favorite thing about the bike. I mean, not just the fact that it makes the whole thing look right, but check out how much storage you have in this thing. I've got a box, the charger, keys. This thing is big. I could definitely fit a gallon of milk in there, and it would take up like that much space, and we still have another third of it left. This is a big bag. Like, most bikes are missing storage space. I like it when e-bikes and motorcycles have storage that's built in somewhere, but the fact that it's just there and it's this huge bag, number one, I think I'm gonna say it, that's my favorite part about the bike. It looks good, but there's just so much space in there. So they do offer saddlebags that can hang off the back here where this little seat attaches. So if you need even more room than that, if you're gonna like do a full-on grocery run, you could add saddlebags, of course, but you can fit a surprising amount of stuff in here. If you're gonna use this to commute to work or something, I mean, you can fit a lunch bag in there, you could fit some tools in there. I bet I could even fit my helmet in there. It's a snug fit. You could see it bulging a little bit right there. So depending on the style of helmet and the size of your head, you could fit a helmet in there. And if you're worried about theft or people stealing whatever's in there, it has built in a combination lock. So you zip these guys up to right here and then put them over. Now, is it gonna be the most secure thing in the world? No, like I'm not gonna leave my cell phone or a wallet in there. But if you wanna put some basic stuff in there, you don't want people rifling it through it, it locks. Since I got it out, let's mention something I am not in love with, and that is the charger. And it's not just that it feels kind of cheap, like that alone honestly doesn't bother me. Like, most chargers are plastic, but here's the thing. This is a 4 amp charger. And for an e-bike that is, say, 14, 15 amp hour battery, that means this would charge your battery in like 3-4 hours. No big deal. But this battery is either 58 or 60 amp hours, I'm not entirely sure, but it's big. 4 amp hours is really slow for a battery that big. Do the math real quick here. So if it's, let's run with 58 divided by 4. So if this battery was totally dead, it would take you like 15 hours to do a full charge. That means if you are actually gonna ride this thing all day and kill the battery, and you wanna charge it overnight, it's kind of borderline if it's gonna be fully charged by morning. But 15 hours is just too long. I think e-bike chargers should be like half that at max, like 6 to 8 hours would be more reasonable. So just because the battery is so big, I'd like to see a charger that's faster. Now on the plus side, they are using a pretty standard 3-pin XLR connector. So it's not like you can't just go buy another charger. Very easy to get one like that that's gonna go charge faster. I just think it should come with that out of the box. Now this little box here, I thought was really cool. It kind of reminds me of like an oil container or something that would be on an older motorcycle. It kind of fits in with the overall vibe, and that's where the motor controller's tucked in. The motor controller itself, the wiring and everything is a little bit of a mess. There's just wires crammed in everywhere in there. But once it's buttoned up, everything looks nice and clean. Now coming back to the rear shocks, they look like something that would be off of like a fairly inexpensive go-kart. That's, I'm pretty sure what it is. And they're a little sticky. They're not like super smooth going up and down. So that's definitely room for improvement, but they work. I mean, this does have full suspension. It's not gonna be off-road full suspension, but it's full suspension. You got a triple tree fork up there. The front fork, although it doesn't have any adjustment, much smoother. No complaints about that. Brakes-wise, real heavy duty, thick rotors. These are like pit bike style. These are not bicycle brakes. So I'm glad that they went with something real heavy duty there. The pads are pretty soft right now. Hopefully that's just a break-in thing. These are 180 millimeter rotors, but like I said, way thicker than normal. So I think those will be fine once they've broken in. If not, might have to find some different pads or something to bite a little bit better. I would like them to bite a little bit easier. The bike has turn signals, and a big plus about these is that if we come up to the screen here, it shows the signal on the screen. So you're not gonna forget that you left it on. There's no like audible beep or anything. The button doesn't have like a centering mechanism like some motorcycles do, but it shows that your blinker's on the screen. Also has a horn, which is pretty loud actually. Where is that thing? Is that built into the light or? Oh man, that like hurts my ears. I think must be built into the light because I don't see where else it would be. But it is loud. If you're gonna put a horn on a bike, louder is better. And then lights, we have, let's see, so this is the high-low beam. This is the lights on or off. So coming to the front here, so off, we have on, like a running light, then we have a headlight, and then you even have a low beam, high beam. So a bunch of headlight settings. That's also gonna turn on the tail light back here, which I can't actually see if there's a brake function there, but it does have a tail light of sorts. Now the signals are only on the back, so that's something I gotta point out. Yes, it's got turn signals, but not on the front. Presumably because the wiring's all there and it's shoved in here. If you really wanted to add front turn signals, it'd probably be as simple as buying some signals that clamp on right here and just splicing them into wherever these guys are wired in. So probably not a hard modification to do. Let's talk about these wheel covers. In the pictures, they look awesome. In person, they still look pretty good. But if you touch them, they are like super thin molded plastic. I feel like I will be surprised if these hold up for long. Maybe they will, I don't know. I only have 2 complaints about them. One is, makes it really hard to get to the valve stem in there. because the rims are nice and fat, it's like way in the middle and not all the pumps can get in there. So a little annoying to inflate your tires. Not a huge deal. And they are a little noisy when you're riding. Sometimes you can hear them, like every revolution, you'll hear this like little plasticky squeaking noises on the front and rear wheels with these things. So they're not super quiet. They're not, however, as noisy as the chain. Now the chain, at first I was like, these guys just did everything. They were like, let's do something unique with the wheels. Let's do something unique with the battery, the tank look, the controller mounting. And I love everything about that aspect. The chain included. The chain looks super cool. I got a couple problems with it. One, it's noisy. Every little bump, this chain is clicking on here and just making noise constantly all the time. I could probably put a little piece of like rubber on the inside of this guard right here, and that would get rid of the noise. If you're not going to use these passenger pegs, which, hey, look, it comes with passenger pegs and a passenger seat. Actually super cool. But if you got rid of this little guard right here, that would probably get rid of the chain noise, because I'm pretty sure it's just whacking on that guard right there. So that's a small issue. That's fixable. You know, maybe if I tighten up the chain just a little bit, I can get rid of the noise. I mean, I'm not even realistically gonna pedal this thing that much. You could even just take the chain off completely and just have pedals that just loosely spin around if you wanted to. I don't care. But pretty cool that it has passenger pegs here. This right here is a chain tensioner. If you've never had a bike with horizontal dropouts, you have this little washer thing in this nut, and this adjusts how close the axle sits in the frame so you can get the tension right on the chain. This is normal stuff. Like, this might look cheap, but this is pretty normal on bikes like this. Yeah, there's nicer machined ones. The only issue I have with that is that there's only one. Normally, you'd put one on each side of the bike, and they kind of went cheap and they only put it on one side. So you can adjust the side with the chain on it, and then this side you just kind of tighten and cinch that bolt down and hope that it stays where you want it front to back. I think it should have a chain tensioner on both sides. If I'm wrong about that and somebody else has seen that on a bike, let me know. But the only single speed bikes I've ever worked on have the tensioner on both sides. So very small, like, you know, probably a 25-cent fix at the factory to add that on there. So yeah, I'm being a little nitpicky on some of these things, but that's because that would be cheap to change and fix. Tires, love them. They roll well so far. They seem like they got decent grip. They got a little bit of tread. These are, I need to put a tape measure to them to see what the actual width is, but these are 20 by 5-inch tires. Normally, all these e-bikes I'm testing are 20-inch by 4. Now, are these a full inch wider than what we normally see? I don't know, but they are definitely chunky width-wise. That's gonna mean more volume, more comfort, more tire tread on the road, more grip, and I think it's just gonna make it ride and feel really nice, soak up all the bumps. Fenders are plastic, which I often prefer because they make less noise. They don't get scratched up as easily. Some people prefer metal because they think they'll last longer. It's just a personal preference, but they're solid. And they also put on a second front fender. So you've actually got two. I've seen some bikes with just this, some with just that, some with none. This, they were like, let's just put both of them on there. See, and I left my turn signal on, but now I see it. But those are all very like initial first impressions. I think I really got to go ride it a little bit more, ride up and down a few steep hills. And ultimately for me, here's what I'm going to say at the end of this video. I don't know if there is any opportunity whatsoever for me to sell the Walfisk brand of bikes. There might be, and there might not. But what I'm going to do at the end of the video is tell you, is it good enough that I'd sell it in my shop or not? And that's gonna be my determination, and hopefully will help you make a decision if you're interested in something like this, is, you know, am I comfortable with the quality of the bike, how it rides, the pricing and everything, and then you can make your decision from there. Now, I didn't mention that the screen, this little N thing with the wireless symbols there, the screen has NFC built in. If you don't know what that is, it's like a wireless technology. So it has a little key card. Where did I put my little key card? It's in my bag. There we go. A little key card and a key fob that you can use to like lock the bike, turn an alarm on. But this little key card right here is how you turn the bike on and off. You just put it on the screen there. Bluetooth mode. I'm not sure if I like the Bluetooth mode. Like, I don't know, it seems a little cheesy, but whatever. What I like about this is, in theory, I haven't tried this, my phone has NFC built into it. So I should be able to program my phone to be the key to open the bike instead of carrying this card. Just cool little convenient things. So there's a 3-speed switch on the right side of the handlebars. There's a little button below that. I don't know what that does. I'm pretty sure this thing has a cruise control. I'm not sure how to turn it on or off. So if we put this 3-speed switch to 1 and I throttle up, according to the display, I'm going 18 miles an hour right now, which we know is not accurate. It's definitely going slower than that. We're going like 15 or 16 or something. Because remember on the Dyno, it was showing 50 miles an hour when I was really only going 40 miles an hour, which I suppose I should test that first. Let's see if this bike will actually go 40 miles an hour. So this is a nice flat stretch of road, slightly downhill in that direction, just ever so slightly. So if we can hit it, we're gonna hit it going this way. If we can't hit it going that way, it isn't gonna do it. So if we bump the little power number to 2, now goes a little bit faster. It's gonna let us get up to like 30 something miles an hour. It says 32 miles an hour. So mid-20s. Now let's bump it up to 3. Come on. All right, 38, 39. So the bike thinks we're going 40. That's not 40 yet. We gotta hit 50. 43. What if we tuck in? Come on. $43 miles an hour on the display. So it's reading like, what is that? 30, it's reading about 30, no, that's not right. It's reading about 25% too fast. So 43 minus a quarter, I mean, roughly, we're doing like 34, if I have my math right. So here's the thing. Most e-bikes that do like 30 miles an hour are fast. This bike is faster. It does like mid-30s, but it's not a 40 mile an hour bike. It just doesn't do it. Now, it doesn't have the instant acceleration, the instant torque like a 1500 watt mid-drive. If you want to fly up a hill or really feel that acceleration, a mid-drive bike in the same power range, wattage-wise, is going to outperform this bike in a lot of ways. Now, motor-wise, the advantages this bike is going to have is that the motor is quieter. It's also not running through your drivetrain, so you're not wearing your chain down, your derailleur down, all your gears when you're putting all the power down. You're just using the motor. So in theory, it could be a more reliable system. That depends on the motor itself and how hard it's being pushed, but this should be a pretty reliable setup. So this is a really steep hill, 10+% grade. I'm gonna get up to speed as fast as I can, see how much the bike slows down up over this hill. And it definitely slowed it down. That hill took us down to like just under 20 miles an hour. It is fun, I like it. I think those big, wide 5-inch tires do give you some confidence in the turns, more so than the typical kind of 4-inch, slightly knobby tires we see. The tread really wraps around all the way on the edge of these tires. So I can really lean this thing over. Oh, brakes wise, I totally forgot to mention that I think they should change this. The brakes are reversed. They are set up like a motorcycle, or like European style, which I think for the American market is wrong. Most people buying this are gonna be people that are buying it from a bicycle perspective. Right brake should be on the rear, left brake should be on the front. This is not that way. So I'm gonna say that so you're not surprised if you hop on one of these. The left brake is actually going to the rear and the right brake is going to the front, which is normal for a motorcycle, but not for a bicycle. Acceleration, I'd like to be a little bit peppier, but it's not bad. It's realistically gonna perform as well as or better than most e-bikes. I think I just want more power because it looks like it should have more power, especially with the fact that there's such a big battery on it. I would be willing to double the power and take a range hit on this thing, and I think it'd be super fun. You're really getting into moped category once you do that. I think it'd be awesome if they had 2 versions of this bike. This one, the bicycle legal version, it's got a little too much power, but not too much. You can easily restrict that with this 3-position switch, put it down into a legal mode. But I think it'd be super cool if they had like a 3,000 watt moped version of this thing that had a bit more performance to it. For the price, I'll put that up on screen right here because I can't remember the exact dollar amount. It's 2,000 something. Is it worth it? I think so, based on the fact that it's got a big battery. Keep in mind, this is not a UL listed battery. That's becoming a requirement in some places. A lot of companies are moving that direction. This one is not. I like the big chunky tires, big fan of those. I'd like to see more of those on bikes. The brakes hopefully will get a little better as they break in. They work right now. I definitely think these 2 hoses should be swapped so we have the brakes on the correct side. The bag is awesome. Definitely my favorite thing. Rear suspension is actually, even though it felt a little sticky at first, maybe it's loosening up, or maybe when you're just riding more, you just really can't tell. It actually feels fine. Now the chain still makes some noise. I'm gonna have to address that because that's just slightly annoying. And then, like I mentioned, the charger that's in the bag only being 4 amps, I'd like to see them bump that up. So is the bike perfect? No, it is. It's far from it. It could use a few little things, but is it close enough? Like I said earlier, the thing I would say is, would I sell this in my store to customers? The answer to that right now is probably a yes, because I think what I would do is I would probably address some of those little things before I sold it to somebody. So if those little changes were made, 100% yes, I'd be happy to put one of these in front of my store. And I personally would be happy to own one and ride it around. So if you're interested in one of these, I will put a link to their site in the description. Tell me what you think. Do you think it looks awesome? What other changes would you like to see? Do you want to see more bikes like this with this kind of look? And to the people at Walfisk, thank you very much for sending out this bike. I really did want to see it, and I actually look forward to seeing what you do next, because overall I think this one is a winner.